This is Mario Andretti, and you are listening to Below the Yellow Line.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Below the Yellow Line. We have a very familiar face joining the show for the third time. It is my pleasure to welcome in Mr. Ryan Gamble Roulette to our virtual Below the Yellow Line studio. Thank you so much for joining the show again, Ryan. How are you doing today?
Doing well, Samuel. Thanks for having me. I love your intro video. I've been talking to Marco quite a bit lately at the track, and it's great to see him out there.
Absolutely. Great to have somebody like that introduce the show. Certainly a dream. Great to have you on the show tonight. Daytona was a little more than a month ago. You also raced at Phoenix, and I'm sure you got plenty of big plans coming up. So that's what we're going to discuss tonight. I got to say, having you on for a third time, this is the least nervous I've ever been to have a guest on the show because now I know you a little bit. So,
There you go.
not shaken tonight as I usually am, but you went to Daytona, had a pretty solid night, had a very late night. That was a race that I think I probably fell asleep on about lap 20 because I had to get up and go to the airport to get down there the next day. And I told myself I was going to stay up and see how he did. Unfortunately, I fell asleep. I didn't get to see it. But tell us from your perspective, the best perspective, the cockpit, the driver's perspective, how you think that race went.
Yeah, great question. Man, it's Daytona. You talk about a track. It's on TV. It seems a lot wider than it is in person. I'll say that much. And if you start paying a lot closer attention, the broadcast on FS1 or whoever NBC's broadcasting it, you notice real quick in the turns that hey, they're too wide. That looks awesome. Like, oh shoot, they're three wide. When they're three wide, they cover the entire asphalt that's out there. There's not a ton of room there. But all that to say, it definitely huge track, a lot of speed, a lot of fun, a lot of learning on my end. But also at the same time, a little narrower than I anticipated. The sim doesn't quite do it justice, if you will. But I think overall we had a real fast number 12 VFW car out there. We ran pretty much the entire gamut of the field. We started in the back at one point in time. We were in fifth, and then we were everywhere in between. So I think we saw everything you could see out there. Missed a couple big ones, thankfully. We got tangled up a little bit ourselves in something, and saw the infield grass and turn one. And like I said, the front and back of the field, we saw three wide in the middle. I think we hit every checkbox that you can hit at Daytona, for good or worse in some cases. But I think overall we had a great car out there. We ran what we needed to do. We ran our playbook of what we wanted to do. And minus that small incident, I think we definitely had a top 15 coming our way easily, if not more, based off that last lap wreck. Probably a top 10. But overall, we're definitely proud of the team and what we accomplished and the goals we set, and we achieved everything we wanted to do.
When you bring a car away from Daytona in relatively one piece, I think that's a big accomplishment. But this race, I think it started around 11:30 local time, Eastern time. What was that like? Because, the schedule going down there for the week, okay, we're going to run Saturday afternoon. We got qualifying the day before, shifting to, okay, we're going to run right after the truck race. With how many cautions that race had, who knew when that was going to end? It might have been 5 in the morning before y'all finally saw the green flag. But what was that like from a driver's perspective, having to totally shift the mindset from we're racing tomorrow, I still got time to prepare, got time to get the butterflies out, to, oh crud, we're going racing in just a couple hours, I gotta go ahead and get in that mindset, go ahead and get the playbook refreshed in my mind? What is that like from a driver's perspective when there's that dramatic of a change in the schedule?
Right. I am very structured in life. Like if you ask my wife how I pack, I lay out the 5 t-shirts, the 5 this, the 5 that. It's organized. Once it's in, it goes in the bag, right? Same with racing. I have a goal I want to achieve. I go out there with what I want to do overall. And when you throw a monkey wrench in it, oh boy. So it was definitely an adjustment. The silliest problem I had that whole evening was, okay, hey, we're gonna race tonight. We found out pretty early that we're gonna race after a truck race that night, which was fine, and not enough time to really go back to the hotel or Airbnb wherever you're staying at to nap unless you were close. I wasn't. So just trying to catch some Z's in the holler, and I got a little bit, and then I realized, oh, that was a great idea, but a bad idea. As you wake up super groggy and you're like, okay, I gotta go do this thing. And the biggest problem I had leading up to that race was finding coffee. I could not find it anywhere on that complex to save my life. And I don't know what team it was, but I was able to bum an energy drink off of them and to kind of get going. But the key thing, like you said, you have a mindset. Your mindset that day is, okay, cool. I'm here to achieve this goal and this objective. I should be done at this time. I'm gonna afterwards debrief with the team, and then I'm gonna try to go to bed at this time, wake up and eat this meal, and you kind of have this routine you're looking to go through. And it definitely was, flipped upside down on me. Overall, I mean, it's just you just have to adapt and overcome, right? If that's the worst case, is I couldn't find coffee and we were running top five that night, I think overall we were doing pretty good. But it's definitely different to say the least. And I've never raced that late since. Well, I don't think ever. Even the local dirt track scenes usually have a curfew that isn't 1 or 2 in the morning. So it was exciting and a lot of fun.
Yeah, I imagine Daytona is pretty exciting running when it's scheduled, but especially when you're running at midnight and you haven't had your coffee. I can say from experience, it was hard to find coffee even just in the general admission grandstand area. Plenty of beer. I mean, plenty of beer, but there was little coffee to be found. So you go from Daytona, you have a solid run there. And then a month later, little less than a month later, you got to turn around and go to a track that is about the complete opposite of Daytona in Phoenix Raceway, a 1 mile track, pretty flat track, not much banking. You can go probably 9 wide at Phoenix if you want to. Unlike at Daytona, the difference is you're going to get a little tighter once you slide up and there's no banking to catch you. So, what are the main differences going from Daytona to Phoenix? So did you have to shift your mindset there, going from a track from one extreme to the other? And what was it like having to go from this big monster in Daytona to a track in Phoenix that probably felt pretty small when you're coming off racing a track like Daytona?
Yeah, absolutely. I will say this: there is one very big similarity, and that is if you're looking for rain, call up Ron Drager at ARCA. We'll put a race in your town, and you'll get rain. So we fought rain again down at Phoenix. Unfortunately, it cut the race short for everyone, but we were able to complete what we needed to. But like you said, it is so different. They're apples and oranges. Like, yeah, we're racing, but they're not even close. I uh, I had posted this thing on Instagram, gosh, a year or two ago, enough to where I went and bought the poster. And what I ran into is when you're talking to friends or family, well, they all know what I do, but people that are learning the sport, and you're trying to explain to them, like, listen, here's Formula One, here's the tracks they run. Like, oh, they're so different, it's so unique, and the qualifying is so big. And like Monaco, if you start first, you're probably going to win or have a really good shot at it. And I said, yeah, that's all true. Let me show you NASCAR. Let me show you our tracks. Like, all those kind of look the same. Like, sure, they look the same. Chicagoland and maybe Kansas and maybe Nashville. But once you start looking at the banking and the different variables, and Nashville's a super speedway by name, but it ain't that big. It really changes the dynamics of it. And then you start going in there and like, oh, the picture of Martinsville and Bristol looks like the same size as the picture does of Kansas or Talladega, and you put little tiny Bristol in all of its glory inside of the turn at Daytona. It really opens up what it is and how different all of our tracks are overall, which makes it so exciting. And if you're really good at one type of racing, you may not be good at another. And I've been to Phoenix a few times now. Every time I learn so much and I get better, but overall, it's a track that just is not my best. But I'm slowly figuring it out, and I'll just keep getting better every time I go. It's just so different. The dog leg is a blast, to say the least. Turn 1 and 2 is definitely wide and sweeping. Turn 3 is kind of like a short track entry, but then it widens out, so the exit's very different in 4. And it's just challenging, very challenging.
For sure, going from one variable to the next, and I like what you said about rain. It felt like that way. It felt that way for the first few weeks of the NASCAR season. The Clash gets moved 24 hours forward. Daytona, the ARCA race runs at midnight. The 500 gets postponed 24 hours back, and then you go to Phoenix, and you're looking out in the grandstands of the ARCA race. No, there's some lightning strikes over there, and it's raining in the desert because why wouldn't it rain in the desert? In March. One
Right.
big storyline when we left Phoenix last fall was that Truck Series championship race. And what all went on. A lot of us know what went on, and we didn't initially like what we saw. And I think you mentioned this when we did the show in January, but ARCA has had a reputation over the last few years, and thankfully it's kind of shedding that reputation as a series where there's a lot of drivers that let's just say that they race differently than the old breed, than the old guard of drivers. They race with a little bit more carelessness, a little bit more recklessness. They're more of whatever it takes to win rather than, I'm going to do like David Pearson and conserve and go win that way. From your perspective as one of those veterans, as a guy that at least, I'm not one of the drivers out on the track. I don't, know how you race from the cockpit, but you seem like a driver who is very respected for being clean, racing clean, and racing more like a Mark Martin than, say, a Joey Logano or Denny Hamlin type. How did you feel the respect levels, and how did you feel the on-track etiquette was at Daytona and at Phoenix, coming into a season where a lot of young drivers and trucks and ARCA were under a lot of scrutiny for that sort of thing? How did you feel like these guys raced in terms of their on-track etiquette these first couple races that you ran?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think it's hard to look at Daytona. I think most series, I know the trucks, we overall as a series it was a little rough. But when you look at Daytona for us, how many of us have that kind of experience of how many new drivers are out there? How many of us have driven at 1 o'clock in the morning? It is definitely well lit up, but there's a lot of variables there that I'd like to put that one aside and focus more on Phoenix. So I've been to Phoenix. That's my fourth time there. And if I showed you my notes of, hey, this is how many cautions happen, this is how many caution laps happen, here's where the cautions are happening, what turn are they coming out of, what drivers are maybe a part of that caution, whether they caused it or not, just got collected in it. A lot of things I study is not just the track, how they race the track, but how the event's going to go or how I expect it to unfold. I would say Phoenix this March, albeit it was cut short. And toward the end is where you might see some more stuff. I was definitely impressed on how everyone was driving. I was the one that had a car that definitely needed some work, and I was kind of looking as the laps were going down, like, oh my gosh, this is the longest green run I think I've ever had at Phoenix, and I really need to come into the pits right now to work on this thing. But overall, I thought Phoenix for us went very well as an organization with minimal cautions and nobody out there really doing anything too crazy or crazy overall. I didn't see massive dive bombs and throwing it in there when you didn't need to be there. It seemed like I saw a lot of respect starting to be built, and it's a good thing for the series.
Absolutely. A great thing, especially when you look at these young drivers, these guys that are going to be in trucks, Xfinity, and eventually Cup one day. Great to see these young drivers maybe not regain, but just gain that experience in general of, okay, hey, we can race clean. We can have these races. And, I think when everybody's quiet about on-track etiquette after a race, I think that's the best thing. If it's not a talking point for us, I think
Right.
that's the best thing because it shows that, hey, nobody did anything, out of the ordinary. And like you said, I think everybody raced pretty clean. You said for you, Phoenix went pretty well. 2 races into your season here with a few more coming up. Where do you feel like your team is overall here through the first 3 months of 2024?
Yeah, I can definitely say that our results don't match where we're at, which is upsetting to a point. I'll use Daytona as an example. We knew that easily all day between 13th and 18th, and that's with us racing appropriately, racing clean, paying attention to what's going on around us, and like I said before, kind of going off our playbook of where we wanted to be. Yet we finished 23rd because we got tangled up, right? Similar things at Phoenix. We had some issues. We had to go down pit road to get them fixed. Lost a few laps. The track's too small to be going on a green flag pit stop, if you will, in ARCA. So we lost some laps there. So we're very happy with our speed overall. We're definitely turning some heads on where we're at, where we're lining up. Qualifying, that's something I need to keep working on, get better at that. But I think overall, I'm very happy with where we're at, even though maybe our results aren't quite reflecting that. I think the rest of the season we'll just continue to grow as an organization, get better, clean up the small stuff, both on the pit crew side as well as my side as a driver, and working on what I can work on to get better. I saw some great footage this weekend, or I think or late last week, a couple of the crew guys, like no kidding, just grinding it out, just working on pit stops, working on the small things. And the first thing I did when I saw that is I said, "Hey, wife, grab the phone and videotape what I'm doing right now, which is I'm doing my part and I'm in the sim and I'm on the bike trying to get exercise." And it's a group effort right now. We're all trying to work on the small things so we can really bring it strong as we continue the season.
It is a group effort. NASCAR is way more of a team sport than a lot of people realize. My last question for you, if you can answer it, and obviously if you can't, hey, that's completely fine. I know I've asked you some tough questions in the past, but if you can tell us, where are you planning on racing next? Where do you think you'll be going next? And what are some of the upcoming things on the schedule for the team? And maybe if you can't answer that first question, I'll give you another one, maybe something you can follow up on your last answer with. What are some of the
Okay.
things that you and your team are doing at the shop and in the gym? What are some of the things you guys are doing to improve as this grind of a season continues?
Right. So I can say I can give you my next race today. So I'm excited to say that we are going to Talladega here on April 20th. We're absolutely excited for that, especially coming out of Daytona. We have the same piece. It ran well all day. I think we replaced a bumper, had a little damage on it. So same car, same piece. I think we're gonna do real well there, and I'm excited to take that car back there. As for the team, we're spread out all over the place. I don't live where the team is, and some of the team members and the crew members don't live where the shop is. So it's just constantly we text back and forth and have group messages and just hit each other like, "Hey man, I'm in the gym right now getting the lift on, getting swole. What are you doing?" Right? And then we'll just kind of it's positive peer motivation, I guess it is. Friendly competition, making sure that each one of us is doing something like, "Hey, you can't be in the shop working on the car today, but what can you be doing?" And you see a lot of that with us, and it's the friendly banter in the background, to say the least. And I keep telling I'm the most handsome on the team, but I'm probably not. So
Well, it's great to hear that you guys are going to Talladega, and it sounds like a lot of that hard work is paying off. And great to hear that we'll be able to see that on the racetrack again on April 20th. Always, that's just oh gosh, I cannot speak. Excuse me. Always love that spring Talladega weekend because I believe it's the only time we do get 3 Talladega races in one weekend because it's usually just Trucks and Cup in the fall, but you get ARCA and Xfinity on Saturday, and of course the main event, the Cup race, on a Sunday. So great to hear that you guys will be down there. Ryan, thank you so much for joining us for the 3rd time. It is always great to have people on for the 2nd time, but especially somebody like you when you can goodness, I cannot talk. When we can kind of get real-time updates as the season progresses. We had one preseason before Daytona, now catching up after your first 2 races of the year, heading into your 3rd. So best of luck at Talladega. Thank you for joining the show, and best of luck at Talladega and moving forward this season.
awesome. Thanks, Samuel, again for having me on here, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.